feel like the light might be too distracting. Hello everyone, and welcome to my first video since coming back to the States. I moved back to the US about 3 weeks ago because the migrations office kicked me out of Sweden. But right now I'm trying to work on my next application to move back. So anyway, in the meantime, I thought it'd be fun to make videos talking about American culture versus Swedish culture, and I'm excited to show you guys all around Minnesota because there's actually a lot of Swedish history here. For the most part, it actually feels like I never left, which is really weird. So I feel like that's how it always goes when you go on like a vacation or something, is when you come back, it's like, was I even gone? So that's kind of how it felt. But there have been some smaller things that have stood out to me, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. So yeah, let's just get to it. I'm going to talk about 8 culture shocks that I experienced moving from Sweden to the States. I might need to think of a shorter title, but that's what we're talking about. This one probably surprised me the most, and it's also one that I'm still kind of getting used to. But when I go to a grocery store or just anywhere really, my first instinct is to speak Swedish. I guess it makes sense because when I'd be in Sweden, I was always kind of in like that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to the store, I need to ask a question, or, you know, they'll ask me a question and I have to respond in Swedish. So I feel like my brain is still kind of in that spot where like, okay, it's time for Swedish, but it's not, you guys. It's time for English everywhere here. So I'm just not used to that yet. And I think there's only been one actual like slip up where I actually like bumped into someone and so like, oh, förlåt. Like, and then I was like, sorry. Yeah. And I don't have to feel guilty if I speak English either, because that was another thing, you know, being in Sweden, I want to speak Swedish. And anytime I'd switch to English, I would feel like ashamed of myself. Like, oh, I couldn't do it. Why couldn't I speak Swedish that whole time? But yeah, I will say that I actually don't feel as guilty anymore when I speak English with people. So that's a benefit, I guess. So in the past 2 years of living in Örebro, I never drove a car because I don't know how to drive a manual. And I'm really hoping someone can teach me actually. But yeah, you know what was nice though is on Örebro, you don't really need a car if you need to just kind of get around town and everything. But since coming back to the States, it was, a reminder that you really do need a car to just go anywhere, at least where I am, you know. If I were more downtown Minneapolis, then I would be fine without a car, but I'm more in the suburbs and they don't really have public transportation out here. Because even if some places are close enough to bike, they're not easy to bike to. Like there's no real bike paths, they're very limited. And then even if you did bike, then the drivers aren't used to bikers, so then they're not looking out for bikers. The whole thing just is a little dangerous. Plus, I'm not getting the extra exercise anymore either. So food in general could definitely be its own video. You know, I think that is one of the biggest differences probably between Swedish and American culture. But what really surprised me was when you go to a grocery store and just the amount of variety for like each product. That really blew me away. And so when I was in the grocery store nearby, it was like the aisle for milk, yogurt, and cheese. It was just like never ending. I feel like if I put a clip of it in here, it's not gonna look that big. But in person, I was like, what? That is just so much milk and cheese. And then they would have an entire aisle of just frozen pizza and an entire aisle of just cereal. And was I just going to smaller grocery stores in Sweden, or is it normally this much variety? I guess I mean, I've been to like Ica Maxi, which is probably like a close comparison. I guess here it's almost been like every grocery store I've been to is just gigantic and so many options. And it's overwhelming. So pros and cons, it's nice having that much variety, but now I'm overwhelmed. So the first few ones on the list are more neutral, like no preference. They're more just observations. But I will say for this one, I prefer the US. It's actually so nice having just more store hours available. Like all the stores are open so much later here. And that's been something for me to get used to again. I only lived in Örebro, so like maybe it's different in different parts of Sweden, but in general, like after 7 p.m., I feel like most stores were closed, especially on weekends. They'd be closed at like 4 or 5 p.m., you know, depending on the store. But that is something that I've enjoyed since being back, is like not feeling so rushed, not feeling so limited in terms of like when I can go places. So number 4, I prefer the States. I definitely prefer longer store hours. Number 5, I definitely prefer Sweden. I don't know if this is just me, and I'm really hoping you guys can chime in and either reassure me or just tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. But small talk when you're like at a store or something, I don't know why this is a thing. It's like if you go to a store and go to the cashier, they're always going to start asking you like, how's your day going? Did you find everything you need? And then you start having a conversation with them. And I feel like I prefer the Swedish way, which is just not talking to each other. Like in Sweden, you just put your stuff on the conveyor belt, they ring it up. They tell you your total, you know, they might ask if you want a bag, and that's it. They're not asking you about your day. And I appreciate that. Because no one cares, right? No one cares about my day. Or like if I'm taking a walk and then somebody's walking the other direction, I'm mentally preparing. Like the moment I see them, I'm like, oh, when do I look up? When do I make eye contact and like say hi? I get so stressed the entire duration of until that moment happens. And then it passes and it's fine, but it's always just like the anxiety. Is this just me? Because I know that we're gonna have to like look up at each other and be like, hey, I don't know. Is that person just as stressed out as I am? Because I'm very stressed. So being in Sweden, I definitely got used to the whole no cash thing, and it was fine. But I will say that coming back to the States, it is really nice having cash again. I've always liked cash, you know? I like having something like physical that you can hold on to. And I do feel like I'm like managing money better in a sense because I can see it, you know? Yeah, I'm happy to have cash again. I've only seen one shoehorn since coming back to the States, and it was for my 98-year-old grandma, and she's definitely allowed to have one. I'm not completely against shoehorns. I know that it might seem that way, but no, there's exceptions for when shoehorns are allowed, but for the most part, they're not. So I was really happy to see that most people here just putting their shoes on like normal people. Do you use your shoehorn for every shoe?
Oh, no, heavens, no. Just these.
And why not other shoes?
Because I can put them on nicely. Other shoes, I have no problem.
Exactly. And to all the people that have sent me messages saying that like, oh, I hope you remember to bring your shoehorn back to the States. No, I left it behind. I was not going to bring that into the States. after being in Sweden for 2 years, I've definitely gotten used to the prices of things. And so coming back to the States, I've had a lot of things that just kind of surprise me with how much they cost, both good and bad. Like some things cost more here than in Sweden and some things cost less. And so I just kind of wanted to put together a little list of all the things that kind of stood out to me in terms of prices. So, first we have Gevalia coffee, which costs over twice as much here in the States. But then I realized that the size of the bags is actually smaller in the States. So once you add that into the equation, it's even more of a difference. So here are the prices for those. The first time I ever heard of Oatly was actually when I moved to Sweden. So I was actually really excited to find out that it had made its way across the ocean and it's now here in Minnesota. But unfortunately, the price is almost twice as much. Again, I did convert this so that the sizes of the containers would be the same. Apple just released some new products, including the new iPhone 13, and you'll notice that the price of those phones here is almost 3,000 crowns cheaper. But something I've had to get used to again is that taxes are not included in the price. So I've gone ahead and done a bunch of math to give you a more accurate representation of the price. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the price of gasoline. So first, if we look at Sweden, I had to include both liters versus gallons and the price both in dollars and crowns. So you'll see once we look at the average prices in the US, it's about half as much as what it costs in Sweden, and it's even cheaper here in Minnesota. So before I end this list, I was talking about Gevalia coffee, and I thought this might be interesting for you guys. This is Gevalia coffee in the States, and this is actually an older package. They've redesigned it, which I'll show you guys in just a moment. But this is what I was used to before moving to Sweden, and I got my whole family hooked on this stuff. That's how good this is in comparison to American coffee. Like, this blew us away. So this is the original design. Okay, came back a few weeks ago and they redesigned it. What do we notice? I was so mad when I saw this because it's just a classic American marketing, not like tactic or just like, you just know the designers behind this one for the American market were like, you know what's really exotic? Umlauts. Or they'll put in like the O with a slash, which is like Norwegian or Danish, maybe some other countries, I'm not sure. Or there was a TV show that was called Greek, and they put Greek letters for the E's, but the Greek letter that they used was the letter S, so it actually said grisk. It drives me nuts. And I know that they're trying to be like, look, we're Swedish coffee, and so they put an umlaut, but like, if you're gonna put an umlaut, why would you put it over the E? That's not a letter in Swedish. It's like, if anything, at least put it over the A, because that is a letter in Swedish. Plus, if it's named after the town, it would make sense, right? Anyway, that's my rant. Am I the only one who's annoyed by this? Please let me know. Am I overly passionate about Swedish things in the States? I just feel like there's not enough people that can speak up about this issue. So I'm trying my best, you guys. Okay, I'm done. I said I was done ranting like 3 minutes ago. So, okay, that was my list, you guys. I hope you guys liked it. I've only been here for 3 weeks, so we'll see what else I kind of notice as time goes on. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you could like, comment, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. So, otherwise, I'll see you guys very soon. Hej då! When our journey began in the small port town of Gävle. Am I saying it right? You guys, or is it Gävle? Gävle? Oh no, you guys. I don't know if I'm swearing or if I'm saying this town. You guys have to let me know.